Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I am sipping on some Chardonnay that I just poured, so it's all bubbly. I do have my exquisite Seahorse wine glass that I don't use because it's too pretty. It's become a decoration from Holly with me. I also have, let me know in the comments what you're sipping on tonight. I hope your tanks are doing fabulous.
Would this count?
What is it?
It's a bottle of isopropyl, 99%.
How would that help?
Well, might put me out.
Anyhow, if you are on Instagram, just a reminder, it's going to look kind of funny to you because of the aspect ratio. If you want to see the video and interact with us in the comment section, jump on over to YouTube. Search for Seahorse Whisperer, and then the live should be the first thing you see. I have Vincent, Cheryl, Ray, and Holly with me tonight. And I've had a tremendously busy week. I know I say that every week, but it's just gotten busier and busier. So if I've missed anything that I was supposed to do, I'm so sorry, guys. I know Vincent, I know you texted me and I was like, wait, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do? I know I still need to make you admin, but was there something that I was supposed to do?
What day is a good day for you to get seahorses shipped to you?
Oh, that's what it was. Well, no, I'll get with you on the side about that.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to pay for them, of course. So
no, you don't have
we
to
can work that out.
But
I'm excited because I need a couple new males to get. Oh no, wait, I need new females actually because I've got the female turned male. I'm getting myself all confused. My poor seahorses have taken a licking because I've started that part-time job and I've just been hectic with. I literally still got the doctor thing. Got blood drawn. It's just been hectic. But anyways, so. Unfortunately, we don't have a special guest again tonight. Vincent, of course, is special. All of you are special, Cheryl, Holly, and Ray. But we don't have a guest with a specific topic because I've been crazed. Still working with Dan on getting Ask Seahorse Source Part 4. Still working on getting more people to come in and discuss the organics topic so we can dive into Ray's idea a little bit more. But hi, Shyla. I see you. And so tonight's just open chat. So anything you guys want to ask or chat about in the comments, please do. It'll give us something to talk about. Hey, Heather, Seahorse Corner. How are you? Okay, so let's get this show on the road. Anything new with you, Holly?
Yeah, I sent you some pictures in the chat to share.
Okay.
I got something new that I'm liking. And I got I got it for the grow out tank to try it. I got the big version. It's a internal filter.
All right, hang on. I'm trying to pull it up. It's taking forever, of course. My luck. Let me close
That's okay. So anyway, it's really big though. So I liked it so much though. I got a smaller one, which is right here for the display tank. Okay. And I like the bigger one better. I think it's better quality than this one. But they're both pretty cool. I haven't put this one in yet. This literally just came today. So anyway, when you get the pictures, I can tell you about it.
Is it in the Wine Wednesday chat? Okay, I think I found it.
Yeah, it's in the Wine Wednesday chat.
Oh no, this one's from Ray. Hang on, I'm looking at Ray's pictures. Sorry guys, give me 1 sec.
We've been chatting this afternoon.
Okay. I got you. All right, here we go. All right, let me share your pictures as you talk. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we have it. All right, go ahead. What are we looking at? This is the bigger one?
Yeah, so this is the big one. It's a 35 watt, 528 gallons per hour. And I found it after talking to Ray here on Wine Wednesday. It was actually several episodes ago, but I was talking about a way to get all the leftover stuff out of the tank, because it's hard for stuff to go all the way up to the overflow boxes,
Right, yep.
So he was saying he uses a pre-filter. So I started looking for pre-filters on Amazon and some other places. And so what I found was this, and it had a $8 off coupon. It ended up being like, I think that made it like $28.
Nice.
And it's really powerful. It's big. So as you'll see in some of the other pictures, but what I love about it is it's got 3 separate compartments
Yep.
that screw together. So you don't have to use all 3 at once. You can use just 1 or 2, but also you can fill them with whatever you like. So it comes with sponges inside of
Mhm.
it, and the center of the sponges even comes out, so you can use it with part sponge and part other media in it, or you can
Oh,
take
so
the
it's
sponge
stat.
out.
It's
Yeah, they
it's
stack. They
stacked.
screw into
Yeah.
each other.
Cool.
So you can fill it with whatever media you want to use. And even partially, like I said, the sponges aren't solid. There's a center part in each sponge that comes out.
Okay.
And you'll see that in some pictures coming up. So you can put stuff also in the center of the sponge. Now, what I wanted to show here is it's pretty big holes in it, so you don't want to use it for fry or
Gotcha.
smaller seahorses. It works great for my seahorses are bigger now. They're all adults, and they're not interested in it at all. They're not checking it out or curious about it. It's just doing its job in the tank, and I'm loving it. So yeah,
Not like the char chamber, right? Because the Robert King char chamber, it had bubbles, and they love the bubbles, right?
Oh, this does too, but it's gonna
Oh,
make more. But it comes with, it has an airline that you
sorry.
can attach, to it. And I tried it with that, but it just made like way too many bubbles. From there, you can see what a good job it did.
You can put a
Gotcha.
valve
So
on that
this was,
airline and control the bubbles.
yeah.
That's an
So it
idea.
has a valve. The airline comes with a valve. It's adjustable. So there, I'm showing the
Sorry, Holly. I'm trying to show the pictures as you're talking. So there's a the valve is this, right?
See, there you go. No, see, look at the end of the line is a valve.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting
Here?
on the, okay, so you can adjust the bubbles,
Okay.
but I didn't like any of the bubbles it was making, no matter how I adjusted it. I really feel like I don't need the bubbles. So it has a cap, so that's removable. So you can take the airline off. It comes with a cap, like you can see. Well, never mind, because you're showing pictures right now, but there's a cap that goes over where you attach the airline. So you can use
Right
it
here.
with or
Yeah.
without it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Real quick,
anyway,
real quick question. You said that it was kind of strong, and with it being
yeah,
stackable, if you use fewer of the stacks, is it stronger, or does that not matter?
I don't think it matters. Yeah,
Okay.
it's made pretty good. I'm really happy with it. But I think, and I'll show you when you're done showing these pictures, I can show you the other one. Yeah, so
Okay.
you can see if you go back one,
Yep.
all the stuff it caught. Okay,
Holy
so
moly.
this is after I siphon the tank after every time I feed them.
Wow.
But I've noticed no matter how much I siphon, when I come back, there's always stuff that was stuck under something or was too tiny to suck out, so there's always little tiny things in there. So that's why I wanted a filter like this. So this is after running it for an hour.
Wow.
I pulled it out and rinsed it off in the sink. You can see, so it got all that stuff in there.
Perfect.
And
oh shoot, sorry, I lost the pictures.
so what I've
thing
been doing is rinsing it out every morning. See, there you can see the middle part of the sponge comes out even.
Gotcha.
So if you want, you can put your aquachar or whatever in the center of that sponge inside the cup. And there's
Gotcha.
3 cups. So I've been emptying that every day. So there's the cup empty.
Mm-hmm. So you could
And
put
they
whatever you wanted in there, really, but the top one would need to be a sponge to stop things from coming up.
Shyla made a
exactly.
point too that this could be used as a K1 media reactor as well, which was my first thought after seeing it. You could use it for Aquachar or K1 or simply the sponge. It gives you a lot of versatility.
I think
Yeah,
that was it for the
and
pictures.
combinations. So if you show me again, I'll show you the other
Yes.
one I got. So
Okay.
same thing on Amazon. You have 2 choices. You have that one or this one. This is the 25 watt. And I got this for the display tank because it's smaller. The other one's huge. It's in my 75 gallon, but I think this will be better in the 55 gallon. I don't like it. I haven't used it yet, but I don't like it quite as well because it's not made quite as well. See how the plastic's different? And
Yeah.
so it's got this part in the center, and it's still got 3 cups. I haven't taken it apart yet, but yeah, so here's the sponge. So it comes with 3 of these, and they all screw together. So it's kind of the same thing. I think you can add different stuff, but it's not made as well as the other.
Gotcha.
And it's still $8 off though. So this one ends up being about $20.
Nice.
So they're not expensive, really.
But that one doesn't have air, does it? A way to put air
Yeah, it
into
comes with.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it comes with all the
Okay.
stuff. It's exactly the same, other than you can tell the body's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and there we go. So that little thing. So this plastic thing in the middle,
Yeah.
the other one doesn't have. It has. Remember, it came with sponge in the middle.
Right. Gotcha.
And it doesn't have the intakes are not on the side. It's only on the bottom, on the other one. The holes.
Oh, I like the intake on the side too. I
do too. So there's features I like better on each of them than the other one. But these
Don't
cups
depend
are
on those
not.
suction cups.
These are not as easy to screw in.
Okay, Ray, what did you say? Don't depend on the suction cups.
With the weight of the unit, when it's in the water, and usually I found that there's a slight bacterial slime that will go on the glass and eventually let the suction cups come loose. And then if it falls over and you don't have anything else holding it in place, it'll fall over. And if you've got a sand bed, it's a disaster because it'll blow everything all to hell.
I've had that happen with a power head.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that I've been
my
using
power
my
heads
type
have done
for 29 years. And they come with suction cup piece for the back of the power head. They also come with a clamp that sits over the top of the edge of the tank. And I use the over the edge of the tank for it. Either that or I lie it down on the bottom of the aquarium behind rocks or something out of sight. But so that it's not going to all of a sudden fall and blow everything all to heck. But the ones that I have are simpler made and a little bit smaller. But like I say, I've been using them for 29 years and the power heads are still working.
I'm curious to both of you real quick. Where did you aim the flow? Because in a smaller, I know you're talking about a bigger tank, Holly, but in my 40-gallon all-in-one, I'm looking for options like this. This is why our KC chamber has been so effective, is because it's just bubbling instead of pushing water. Because I can't imagine where I would want the water pushed. You know what I mean? So how did you figure that out?
Mine's adjusted kind of diagonally through the tank. Like on the big one that I showed you, see, I put it all the way down near the bottom. It's not laying on the bottom, it's vertical. but I pushed it down in the tank almost to the bottom because I want it to suck up the stuff from the bottom.
Right.
So it's a good, I would say 8 inches below the surface of the water. So it's blowing through the
Not
tank
up or over. Gotcha.
diagonally. Now,
Gotcha.
I've used power heads before, and I don't like the power heads as well as I'm liking this, actually, because this has a lot more stuff I can do with it. But my power heads, I had them just like what do they call them?
Internal
The
filter.
nozzles, the nozzles that
Oh,
come
yeah.
out. Okay, so I had them like that. I had them going across the surface of the water, kind of. But these are going to be farther under the water, so they won't do that.
And Shyla said that they have attachment to adjust the flow. I was going to say the internal
Mhm.
filters I've always used have the spray bar type deal. And I've always liked
Mhm.
that because it kind of disperses the flow. And I wanted to say real quick, hi, Big Shrimpin'. Hi, Infernographer. Hi, Chris Carey. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. But anyways,
Comes with parts. Like you can see, this is how it is. Let me get it positioned right. So it's got different, nozzle parts to put on it. A
yep.
little baggy. But I used the I'll show you, I'll get it out. So I used this on the one in the
Mhm.
grow out tank. But I imagine you could attach like other stuff to it if you wanted to, a spray bar type thing to
Sure.
do it
Yeah.
a different way.
I don't use the diffusers on mine. I just let it go straight. As a matter of fact, in my abs tank that only has one Seahorse left in it, I have 3 of these power heads with the quick filter attachment on, and I have 2 of the power heads without any attachment on. These power heads without an attachment put out 400 gallons per hour,
Holy moly.
and I don't have any deflection on the output at all. But you're asking about how do you direct it? Well, every tank's going to be different. You have to find
Right.
the proper place in there to direct things that are going to work best for keeping the stuff in motion until it gets sucked up by the unit that you have, or a combination of getting it to direct in the right place, but also locating it so that the food sort of gravitates naturally to the intake of the filter. Mine is smaller than what hers is, but like I say, they've been going for 29 years, and I've got over 30 of them.
Mhm.
And I see your pre-filter there. Yeah, I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like they've just kind of advanced it, but it's still. And is there a sponge in
And-
there?
Okay, there's one end off.
Mhm.
There's the other end off, and the casing comes in 2 halves basically.
Oh, okay.
And normally there's a sleeve, a filter sleeve that goes on there, and it's around these canisters. And these canisters, you can fit 2 different media inside the baskets.
Mm-hmm.
I put a cap off of something, I can't remember. I think it was a prescription bottle that I put in the bottom one, because without it, it had to fill these things up and assemble it all, this whole unit upside down, so that you didn't lose stuff out of the bottom one. So with the cap in there, I could put the stuff in, put the cap in, and then stick it all together. These pads here that I use for the filters now are, I get them at the dollar store. I think they come
Nice.
in packages of 10 or 12. They have different colors, blue,
Yep.
gold, or blue and green and yellow and so on, red. And they work out good. I overlap just a little wee bit here and wrap it around. Whoops, get this thing together here. And shove it in. Put it all together. And the reason I do this is because originally when I bought them, Hagen sells the proper sleeve for it, but it costs an arm and a leg. And they're very difficult to try and clean out. So I switched to using a sleeve that was the right size for a Fluval 3 filter. And it was a lot more economical and I could clean them a lot more. But eventually the Fluval 3 was discontinued. So this is stuff that I had, whoops, this was stuff I had on hand. These pads are just used for cleaning the stuff around the house. And so I figured, well, gee, that would make a good filter, that material there.
Yep.
And so I figured, well, I could cut it and just fit them inside this thing. Well, it turns out I don't need to cut them. They were just the exact length of
Wow.
the cartridge in
Perfect.
there, and I didn't have to cut it any other way because I could overlap it a bit, and there was plenty of room for it. And the baskets are still large enough inside that I can put in GAC, or I can put in
Aquajar.
the iron compound. I can't get the name out. Ferric.
the Oxfair. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So you can put in the various things inside there.
Mhm.
And at the time when I got them, they were economical, at least for Canada. Like
Hey,
we
Dee.
pay about 3 times the price in Canada for the things that you buy there in the industry. Like
Well,
that,
quit bragging, Ray.
the filter
Quit
that you
bragging.
bought there would cost us about $100 here.
Well, wait. I was gonna say I was looking. Is this what this is? It right? That's Maryland, but it shows the pre-filter.
Marine
I was for
one.
it to show, you
Mhm.
know, what we're.
No, that's not this one. That's a different brand.
So what's
This one's
the
Hagen.
brand? Hagen.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Aqua Clear, I think they call it.
Yeah, I put links.
Ah.
I put links on Messenger.
Yeah,
Okay.
it brings up.
I'll
I
hit
have
'em
a
up.
bunch of Aqua Clear stuff that I use.
There
I
we go.
use their stuff. Yeah,
That's it.
I use their filters.
It's only $2 here.
Yep.
But I think this is just the bottom. Like, yeah, I think this is just the bottom. So you'd have to buy the
Yeah, you
power head
attach
too.
it to a power head.
Yeah, but still. So I mean, that's interesting because I wasn't using. I mean, I've used internal filters, but I may try to use this. And I wanted to say, I want to shout out every time someone joins. Hey, Dee Dee's Finden. Hey, the Zen Ginger. Hey, Christine. Good to see you. Open chat tonight, so we're just chatting about stuff that works for us, and we've got a lovely Vincent here too that we haven't gotten to. But Holly and Ray, anything else about the quick filters? Just the fact that they get the food you don't
Yeah,
get,
I'm loving
and
it. And I like that one. The big one, I think I'm going to like better than this littler one. There's just a lot of better things about it. Like, for instance, I'm noticing, this one just came and it's got the suction cups are actually attached to the power head. Whereas on the other one, it's a bracket with the suction cups on it, and the pump slides out of the bracket, so you can leave it attached and pull the pump out. So I think I kind of like
cool.
it better, but I've been able to change it without detaching it because they unscrew, and those ones are so easy to do. I just reach in and do it. This one, they're not as easy. I don't like the way this one's made as well as I like the other one, I think.
Hey, Kelly. Hey, Annette. Good to see you again. Kelly, so glad that Zenny's a fan and glad to have you. We're just doing open chat tonight, so any questions or comments or thoughts or any topic you want to be discussed about seahorses, that's what we're here for, community. We're just talking about things that work for us so far. And I'm curious too, Cheryl, you said that some people were saying that it could be used as a K1 media reactor. I'm not following that because it wouldn't tumble the media, would it?
It should.
No,
Depending on how
It should?
well,
But
if
in-
you don't put the sponge in, but then again, I don't know if the slots are too big and might allow the stuff to come out. But if you're talking about putting it in the centerpiece, that centerpiece is too small for K1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the caps are big enough. I just don't know if it would tumble.
They
Right.
should
Because
if you
look,
if you put
if you
sponge in.
take everything out,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a cup, so you could fill that with K1. It's not going to come out. The slots are way too small for the K1 to come out. But yeah, I'd have to put it in there and try it and see if it tumbles, I guess, is the only way to know for sure.
It should. If you put a thin sponge to
Oh.
help block the flow in all the chambers, you should get a good effect in terms of tumbling the K1 because it's going to
Like
take the
maybe
fast.
fill one with K1 and leave the others sponge.
Well, no, I'm worried about the fact that there's holes on each, like in different areas. But
Well,
I
and
think
then the
Vincent's
other
trying.
one,
Well,
there's only holes in the bottom. The holes are not
right.
the same in the two units. So which would
Vincent,
be
I
better?
think you were trying to say something. Are you muted?
Yes, I am. No, I was just
Okay.
gonna say that you'd have to have it come from the bottom up. With it coming in the sides, it wouldn't tumble it.
Mhm. So
would
it might
just-
work
Yeah.
in the other one,
In
but
the
not
other
this
one.
one,
Yeah.
because the other one does
Yeah.
not have holes in the sides. They're only in the bottom.
I would also say that to make a K1 media reactor, I know, guys, I still got to get the video up, but literally I used a 1 liter bottle and an airline filter. I mean,
That's
it's
what
so
mine
easy.
is, 2 liter
I would
bottle.
use what the internal pre-filters and such
Mhm.
for collecting mices. I don't think I'd use it for K1.
Yeah.
It's just a different purpose. You know what I mean? That's just my thoughts on it.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to read the comments, guys. But Ray, did you want me to show the pictures you shared in the chat, or was that for something else?
No, the pictures that I showed on Messenger were just to show Holly what I was using basically the same concept, but I've been doing it for
Mhm.
29 years with a different brand. And
Well, let's
it wasn't,
show them, and you can tell us what it is.
well, basically it's just pictures of what I just showed you here.
Right. That right.
Yeah, that's
And then what's the meat? Oh, that's the
Yeah,
the floss.
that's basically the filter part and what I'm using for the insides of it. And that's one of the
Okay.
baskets that hold things. And the basket's, I don't know, about 1.5 inches in diameter. And that's a little
Gotcha.
filter that I used to use before I switched to these cleaning pads.
Mhm.
Uh,
All right. I just wanted to make sure I shared them all.
My
Go ahead, Ray.
K1 media reactors are all old Coralife super skimmers, which I always hated because they were a pain to work with. That I gutted, cut the insides out, drilled them up high on each side, and I have a pump attached to them and an airline, and they really do work well. But it didn't cost me anything because it was they were either going in the trash or I was going to find some more.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you guys shared how these internal filters are working for you. Like I said, I've used them before, but I usually use the really cheap ones that I get at the local pet store that have the spray bar. But I've used them for all sorts of stuff. I've put in fact, before I came across the Robert King or the RKC chamber with Aquachart, before I came across that, I was putting Aquachart into the blue sponge of my Fluval internal filter with a spray bar. It wasn't as efficient at all as the RKC chamber, but I was trying. I was trying to figure it out. I love that we test new ideas and new ways to do things. Vincent, do you have any thoughts or comments about any of this?
No, I'm just gonna stick with the char chamber.
Yeah.
These are used more in
Yeah.
fresh water.
What are?
These are used a heck of a lot more in freshwater tanks.
Well, I do like the thought though, because the one thing, like, I think there's different cases for each thing, and it depends on your needs, as you said, Ray, in the beginning. So, like, I love the K1 media reactor because it allows me to not have sand and have less biomedia in the tank. I still use rock, but it's just I'm never worried about a crash, right? Because I've got not only the rock, but I've got the K1 in this small tank without
That's
a
the one that
sump,
stops
because that's my
working.
big. Well, right, but then I got the rock. That's what I'm saying. I'm double. I know what you're saying, Ray. You're right. Never
We had
count
problems
on
with it a couple
anything.
weeks ago.
Right. But as Dan told me, it's not going to cause a cycle. It's just possibly not going to do its job as well.
Yeah.
It's still going to sit there and act as biomedia. And I did get cloudy water. And then going to my next comment, the RKC char chamber, that has a different purpose because it does act as a biomedia eventually, but it starts out as a chemical media. It starts out like a supercharged charcoal, right? Not charcoal, but it's like it, but it's better, right? So it's attracting all that stuff, but it's not picking up the fine pieces of mysis shrimp or the pieces we miss, as Holly pointed out. So then comes in a pre-filter or an internal filter. So I love all these ideas. Were you going to say something, Vincent?
Well, it does pick it up in that sponge. On
Yeah,
the
well, you
bottom.
know, you're right.
Yeah, it picks
You're
it up.
right.
And see, mine on the 75 gallon, it all goes to one of the char chambers, and it settles right around it. And that's why I only have to
Nice.
vacuum one spot, and then just take the sponge out and clean it once in a while.
Well, see, maybe I need to adjust my my airflow through the chamber so mine will suck more in. But you're right. I didn't even think about that. You're right. Absolutely. And I do see that you guys want to. I'm sorry, I showed the wrong message. You do want to talk macroalgae. We will in a minute, but I want to make sure everybody gets to share about this topic real quick. But I promise we'll get there. And Vincent, all you use in your tanks are char chambers,
I
right?
use a skimmer, char chambers,
Okay, right.
and just one hang on the back. But it's mainly just for flow.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And if you guys haven't seen his amazing seahorses, you need to check him out in Seahorse Sources group or on his page. So anything else, Holly or Ray, that you
Yeah,
wanted to share
I
about
did
these? I'm
want
sorry.
to, at some point tonight, talk about
Please.
bacteria blooms. I saw
Okay.
the other day Susan Hopner's whole tank crashed because of a bacteria bloom. She had the tank
Oh
going
my God.
for 6 years. She said she lost all her seahorses, all her fish. Just had like a few invertebrates made it, I think,
Oh
and her
no.
gorgonians, and everything else she lost.
Yeah, I think we found out the culprit on what happened to that tank, because what she'd been doing is dosing Dr. Tim's with the probiotics weekly. And I suspect what caused the crash was the bottle of bacteria was no longer viable. Not just my
Oh
best
no.
guess. And I mean, she was brokenhearted.
Yeah, that was just so terrible.
It was horrible. But the only thing that really, she doesn't have any macro in the tank, so it couldn't have been macro going sexual.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't normally kill seahorses anyway. Trust me, I've been there. But all of a sudden, she added it the day before. The next thing, she got up the next morning, and the seahorses were all dead. And it sounds like either bacterial, or I'm thinking. I also mentioned to her
Oxygen.
that it may be.
Well, that happens from bacterial bloom, was
Right,
what people
right.
were speculating, that they asphyxiated because of lack of oxygen, because the bacteria bloom robbed all the oxygen from the tank. But the doctor,
This actually happened to me.
she said she'd been using that same bottle weekly, so it wasn't a new bottle. So I'm thinking it wasn't that. I mean, I don't know, but I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that. You know, what causes that and how can we prevent that?
Okay.
I'm thinking
Wait,
it was
two thoughts real. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Reaction as to exactly what caused it. It's going to be virtually impossible to say for sure. However, if it had been bacterial, I know of no bacterial infection that will kill in less than 10 hours in seahorses. I've never seen it.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a bacterial infection. We're talking
Bacteria
about
bloom.
a cycle. So my two.
I'm thinking the
Go ahead.
bottle the bacteria had become toxic that she used, that created a hypoxia in the tank, and that's what killed the seahorses.
I've
I
never
don't know
had
if
a
I
bloom
I don't.
develop that
Bottle
fast.
you've been using.
Wait. Hey guys, we got to talk one at a time. Ray first. Go.
I've never had a bloom develop that fast to that level of toxicity.
I
Me
never
neither.
have either.
I
Holly.
still think there's something else that's gone wrong. And it's quite possibly she even knows what maybe she's not done or done. I think most people in this hobby, when you get a major thing like that, I'm not talking about an individual seahorse that gets lost,
Mhm.
gets
Yeah.
dies off and that, and you don't know what. But when you get a major level, I think even though a lot of people don't want to admit it, they know what they've done
Yeah.
or
They
haven't
mean it.
done.
Okay,
But they're still
Holly,
looking
you're.
for
Oh,
The other thing to keep in mind with some of this stuff is when you're using bacteria like she was using it as partially as a probiotic. I use separate probiotics. The only time I dose with bacteria is when I'm cycling. So I never add new bacteria, and I've never had a problem. But I'm using the INBE MIC-F probiotics in my tanks, which is used by the professionals in the hobby.
yeah,
And
McAfee is the only one I've used too.
yeah, it's one of those
well,
things where it was just she was devastated. I was in,
well, and I would say, I want to say, I use Dr. Tim's products, and I've never had this happen.
And
Like what
she's
you're
been
talking
in
about.
the
I'm
hobby for a long time. I mean, I
Susan
consider
is
her
an
an
expert.
expert. She's an expert. So,
And wait. Seahorse Corner said she was using canisters too. Those
yeah.
make things risky if you don't maintain them. Absolutely
Mhm.
agree with you on that.
Yeah,
That's
I
why we
do
always
too.
say canisters can be beneficial, but you have to be the type of person that's not going to skip a week in changing and cleaning and really making sure. And the tubes, cleaning the tubes. I wanted to tell a quick story. And I'm curious to make sure because I've seen a lot of Susan's tanks and she did have macros in many of them. And I
Mhm.
had a situation where I had a 29-gallon with Calerpa, with rock, and that's all that was in there. And I had a baby lion or a dwarf lionfish. And that thing was my baby, you guys. I fed him with my hand. Oh, he was my baby. I love him still. I miss him. And I woke up or I came home from work and he was gasping at the surface. The whole tank was cloudy white. And I was like, what the hell? And it was macro. It was Calerpa that had gone sexual. It had grown under a rock. I tell people all the time, steer clear of Calerpa. And if you do keep it, you got to keep it pruned because it's sneaky and it'll sneak behind a rock and it's stupid. It'll grow under the rock and then kill itself and kill the whole plant. And then it's a mess. And I learned, unfortunately, I didn't have all you guys and I didn't have many Aquarist friends at that time. I could have saved my dwarf lionfish. I did not know that if you're in the midst of a bacterial bloom or a sexual macro situation,
yeah.
if you add more air, I mean, of course, try to do a huge water change right away. But if it's because I didn't know about the oxygenation aspect of it and I didn't add more air right away, and I ended up losing him.
Yeah.
It was terrible. I was devastated. I know her feeling.
Well, I had some macro go sexual on me. I got up one morning and saw my tank looked like crap. Well, the first thing
Yeah.
I did was flood it with airlines and then did about a 75% water change. I already had the salt mix ready to go. I always keep extra on hand. And I didn't lose anything, but she lost everything except the inverts in that tank.
Mhm.
That makes me think it's definitely an oxygenation issue,
Yeah,
like
she
Heather
says
said.
99% sure it was a bacterial bloom.
Well, and the thing is, though, I don't really buy into that it was an expired probiotic or whatever,
I
or an
don't think
expired. I mean,
so either. Well, because she'd
I'll
been
get Dr.
using.
Tim in here, but
The other
go ahead,
problem
Holly.
you've got is if you're using bacteria, if it has not been properly handled through the entire food chain, it's very easy to get a bottle that is, although she said she'd been using it for that bottle for quite some time. But the thing is I use Fritz Turbo Start 900. I've tried Dr.
Hmm.
Tim's, never liked it. But the thing is, I live in Texas, So I'm an hour and a half's drive away from Fritz. And I have Fritz flat out tell me when it's really hot out, they will not ship me anything, even though I'm like 70 miles from them. They will not ship anything in the heat. And we've been through a very
Sure.
hot summer, and the bacteria in that bottle may have been compromised. And it just,
I know, but Cheryl, here's the thing, and I agree with you. It's just like frozen foods, right? If you don't want to get it shipped when it's hot because it melts and then it gets bacteria and it's bad. But Dan's told us repeatedly on this channel that probiotics aren't going to hurt your tank, period. Like even if it's gone bad, it adds to the organics for sure, but it wouldn't have caused this overnight bacterial bloom that
no,
zapped the tank.
it's designed to be both a probiotic and nitrifying bacteria. It's a
I get that.
It's a different bacteria,
exactly.
Kelly.
I get what you're saying. I know Dr. Tim products, and we're just gonna have to get him in here to ask him about it. But I don't know. I just don't. When my tank clouded up, it was because my K1 stopped spinning. Right? Something happened. I'm sure. I just don't know if I think that it's the additive.
Oh.
Hey, Vincent,
She
you have any
said the
thoughts on
water
this?
was cloudy and had a slight odor.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Slight
she
odor.
says I'm 99% sure it was a bacterial bloom.
Yeah, and the thing is, the question then becomes what kind of bacteria is in that substance that she added that could create that.
So
And
I would look more towards the canister filters myself.
That's what
But-
I'm thinking too, because
Yeah.
she said she had just cleaned it shortly before that. And I mean, she knows enough to stay on top of a canister.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Nobody's putting her down. She's an
Yeah.
amazing aquarist and seahorse keeper, and I feel terrible for her. And this stuff has happened to me, you guys. It's happened to all of us. We've all had these kind of things crash and burn. But I've also had a situation where I didn't clean my canister filter, and then when I finally did, think about it. So you got bacteria, it's all bunched up. Then you finally clean it, and what's left, wherever, like multiplies like crazy, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't that happen when you don't, like, say you don't clean your tank for a long time, and then you do a big cleaning? I've always had it get cloudy if I've slacked and whatever. Vincent, what are your thoughts? Any thoughts? Unmute. It's okay.
I think it's something went wrong, and it was bacteria myself.
Yeah.
And you said she didn't
It's
have
re-
macroalgae.
Right.
She
Yeah.
had no macro. The
yeah,
biggest,
no macro in that tank.
And I've never
The-
used Dr. Tim's or Eddie.
biggest thing that puzzled me is she did not lose any of her invertebrates, only the gilled fish, which also makes me think that it was a form of hypoxia.
Well, and that's another thing that could be interesting because, quick little story. When I had freshwater, this is freshwater, but I don't care. When I had freshwater discus, a 55-gallon freshwater discus angelfish tank, and they were healthy, beautiful. I took care of that tank like it was my baby. And then one day I came home and they were all laying on the ground, gasping for air. And the tank wasn't even cloudy. I don't know what it
Doesn't have
was,
to be.
but what I did in that case is I added prime, and all of a sudden they started swimming. I mean, like within 5-10 minutes, the prime neutralized whatever was toxic in the tank. So the lesson we can learn from this, guys, is if you come home and your fish are laying at the bottom, before you just scoop them out and kill them, add prime to the tank. And second of all, add air, because if it's cloudy and white, oxygen is the answer. Of course, get the water out and put new water in. But I mean, it buys you time. I would not have lost my lionfish in the cloudy tank if I had added air, and I did not lose my discus because I added prime. And to this day, I don't know. And what I was getting to is sometimes it's that some kid sprayed an air freshener, right?
Mhm.
You don't know. Anything in the air that gets into that tank and you don't know it. I mean, we're blaming this product, and that's why I keep stepping back from that, is because you don't know if it was the product. And but it wasn't a new product. She'd
Yeah,
been using it. That's
she's
why I don't
been
believe that.
using it weekly forever, she says.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it was that. I think something got in the tank somehow. And
The
I,
thing is,
maybe it was,
I went through all those questions with her about possible contaminants and everything else. And the only thing that changed is she got a new puppy that had basically was spayed, and the puppy was staying inside the house. And it,
did the puppy have flea medicine?
no, the thing is, she's very, very, very careful. The only thing
Oh, I know Susan's
I can
great.
say is I suspect something that she added to the tank did not get along well with her canister filter, because she's using a canister filter on the tank, and created a large bacterial bloom, which created a hypoxic environment in the tank. That's the only thing I can think of.
Is there sand in the tank?
Yes.
Yeah, is
Okay,
there in this one? Yeah. Let me look at her.
that's another thing that it could be. I mean, we're just crossing the, could it be this, right? And Cheryl's already handled this with Susan. And Susan, if you ever watch this, my God, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah,
If I can help you in any
heartbreaking.
way, I'm here for you, because you are an expert and you are an excellent seahorse keeper. And I'm so sorry. This happens to us all. That's the point. We're discussing what's happened to us because it does happen. Newbies, don't be afraid. It doesn't happen to everybody. It's just when you've done this long, you're going to run into these
Well, and
things,
I've
right?
had that in my grow out tank. I've had a bacteria bloom in there, but it didn't hurt anybody.
It depends.
Yeah,
I
you
was
might-
kind of surprised. Like it happened once not long after I did a water change, and it cleared up. It took like 2 days, and the water was totally clear again.
you probably had enough oxygenation. You probably had enough air coming into the water that you didn't have a problem. In my lionfish tank, I just didn't have enough. I just had a hang on the back filter and a power head underneath the water. So, and in the discus tank, I don't even know what it was. To this day, I have no idea. Nobody sprays stuff in my house. I'm a Hitler about, no, I shouldn't say Hitler, that's better. But I am serious about nobody sprays anything in my house because it can get into the water. So just good lessons to learn. And do check your expiration dates on any products you buy, period, for sure. I guess we'll never know. I just feel bad for Susan.
One of the problems is when you're buying stuff like this from a retailer, you have no way of knowing, was it kept cool, was it kept chilled when it was shipped from the manufacturer to the retailer, and what did the retailer do with it, how long did it sit out in the sun, etc., because it can change chemical formula if it overheats, if you don't keep it chilled, etc. And the fact that she didn't lose any of her invertebrates, I found was particularly interesting, because it was only, as she put it, and she was absolutely 100% correct, the only thing she lost were basically the
Seahorses.
individuals that had gills. But
Well, I'm gonna do my best, you guys. I did reach contact, and I'm gonna get Dr. Tim in here so we can ask him all these questions. Remember these questions for when he comes, because you guys know I forget. Chris Carey said that's why sumps are much better for saltwater setups, quick and easy access for maintenance, filtration swap outs, and cleaning and maintenance. Sure, and extra, pushing the water around. I absolutely agree. But I'm still trying to prove you can keep seahorses in a small tank, Chris. So we got to consider all this stuff, because a lot of people can't do the sump. But yes, if you can do a sump, Kelly, do a sump. Do a sump. They are the best.
I build all my own
Go ahead.
sumps. I build them.
I know, Cheryl.
And I've done it long enough by now. I know exactly how much space I want for rubble rock, how much space I want for K1, how much space I want for UVs, and the whole 9 yards. And my skimmers are rated for 180 gallons, and I run those skimmers on tanks, on nursery systems that are less than 70 gallons. But it's one of those things where I haven't had the problems that I used to have trying to keep a darn canister filter. I used to run Fluval FX5s, which were rated for 900 gallons or something crazy like that on a 55-gallon tank.
That sounds
Yep.
like a pain. I used to, my Seahorse tank many years ago, I had a canister filter and I hated that thing.
See,
You
I
can't
like
take it
canisters.
apart to do anything with it.
I use canister filters for this and this only. I have 2 in my house, and I use them for. Actually, this is a great story. Quick story again, because we got to get to the macro question and Zen Ginger's point. But when I had the initial bacteria bloom, when I first set up the 40-gallon all-in-one, I think I added too much bacteria, which is kind of what we're discussing here. It didn't have the probiotics in it. It was just Dr. Tim's one and only. But I did add too much, and all of a sudden my tank was a cloudy mess. The seahorses were fine. I had enough oxygenation, but it was bugging me, and I felt like they couldn't see the food as well. They probably could, but I couldn't see the food as well. And so I had a canister sitting around. I added some water. I added some floss per Dan's instruction, Dan of Seahorse Source, stuck it on the side, and the tank was cleared in a day. Now I have the Robert King RKC char chamber, and adding that sucks it up in a day. So there's ways to clear it, and I don't think canisters are bad. If you're going to maintenance it correctly, okay. Just don't do a canister if you're not ready to take care of it. As Ray said, twice a week, not once. Do you have your finger raised, Ray?
Well, for a little while.
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry.
With regard to Susan's problem, in the past, I'm sure I've seen her post the fact that she's had UV on her system. If she has UV on her system, there's no way a bacterial bloom is going to develop that fast and kill that fast.
Well, wait, unless the light bulb is out.
The thing is, she was running a green machine on that tank, which actually, if you're not totally on top of changing the filter material out on a regular basis, that is also could possibly have been the source of the contamination. Because I don't know when the last time she cleaned them out. The UVs I run are very different. They're a lot more expensive, but I can put the main canister in my sump and run UV straight in using a return. Run the UV treated waters directly back into the tank. And I'll put it to you this way. I've been at this enough years that there's nothing I do the same now that I did over 15 years ago, literally.
Sure. Go ahead, Ray, though. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking that with the experience level she has, that I'm pretty sure she would be cleaning that canister out fairly frequently. And this green machine, I'm not sure what that is. Is that a UV unit with a filter?
I don't know either.
It's an in-tank.
It's
an in-tank UV.
Yeah. Then I would expect she also knows that the UV light bulbs have to be changed on a periodic basis. That's something that experienced people don't normally let go.
Ray, you teach me stuff every week, and I'm the Seahorse Whisperer.
Well,
but go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Too.
Right. But anyway, so I mean, I think we're not going to solve this problem, but we did give a couple of good tips if you ever run into something like this. And I just feel terrible for Susan. But Ray, I want to let you finish. I feel like I cut you off.
My heart.
I don't have any more there.
Hang on, Cheryl.
I just said my heart.
I wanted to bring up the UV bit. Excuse me, because the UV would most certainly slow up any progression of bacterial problem if it was to develop in there. And if it's properly sized and working, it should never have happened at all.
Well, I will say this to wait.
Between 19 and 5:30, that's not very many hours.
No, and I would say that I personally, when my K1 stopped working and I didn't realize it wasn't tumbling, and all of a sudden I had a bacterial bloom, my UV was going the whole time, and it just still made a bacterial bloom.
But you couldn't remember how many hours that had been running for either, that bulb.
You're true. You're true. What were you going to say, Vincent?
Well, I was going to say,
you kind of got to jump in.
no, I was going to say that the green machines aren't the best, and it could be
Right.
overwhelmed very easy.
Gotcha.
Because you can pick those up at Walmart, or not Walmart, but Petco's, PetSmart, and they're the in-tank ones, so they're not the most efficient UVs. I've tried them, and I didn't like them.
Not much.
I never tried one, but I thought about it, and after doing all the reading and reading all the reviews on them, I said, "No way, Jose! I'm putting one of those in one of my tanks. I'm not going to."
Well, I tried one, and it seemed to work.
Well, they work,
you know,
but I mean, I
yeah,
don't trust how long the bulb's going to last. And if you
Right.
have a major problem, it's not going to fix it.
that's not going to.
All it's
But I
going to do
don't
is water
use
clarity.
I don't use UV filter at all, and partly why is because I remember when I was, fairly new here, and Dan was on talking to him about it because I had questions about the different equipment, and he said one thing about UV filters is for a lot of people they don't actually work because you have to know what you're doing to adjust it right. And
Right.
most
This
people
right
don't, and
flow. The
because
right.
I
Yep.
don't have the experience or someone here physically to show me, I don't really trust myself with that equipment.
Well, it's
Makes
one of those
sense.
things where once you've worked with them, you have to assess what your flow rate is depending on the UV sterilizer, and
Yeah.
modify your flow rate depending on what you're trying to kill off. And that's where can get real tricky, because you can kill off stuff you don't want to kill off with a UV.
You can't have
Exactly.
too low a flow, but you can have too high a flow. Your high flow means that it's going to pass through too fast before the UV can actually kill it.
It's not going to do anything.
Too low a flow, it's going to kill them for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and Cheryl made a great point that say, I mean, I know that with Dr. Tim's products, and again, I'll get him in here, but with Dr. Tim's products, he recommends turning off UV sterilizers and skimmers when you add his products, because think about it, you're adding probiotics and bacteria, and then you've got a UV killing it.
Removing
so
it,
that
yeah.
doesn't, you're just creating a big heap of dead stuff, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. We'll have to turn to him. But Zen Ginger wanted to know, don't you still get ammonia spikes if the bacteria dies too?
Depends
If
on
you
what
have
size.
if you have the situation that I just described, if you add bacteria, or you have bacteria and or probiotics, and then you have a UV sterilizer and it kills it, wouldn't you get an ammonia spike? Or if you added dead bacteria, wouldn't that create an ammonia spike?
It depends. Possibly, possibly not. It depends on what else is in the tank. Do you have a system that can combat that, or do you have a system that is already struggling? It depends on how you've got your system set up. And I'll tell you up front, I have changed my filtration and things I do at least 500 times in the last 17 years. And yeah, I've gotten a lot better at it. But when I first started working with seahorses, people were using under gravel filters.
Yep.
Same here. I did.
And
Well,
I
would
looked
say
at
that the
and I
one
thought,
thing,
I'm not going to use an under gravel filter. This makes no sense at all, because all it's going to do is collect detritus and exacerbate the problem.
so step one is either come here, and Kelly or anyone else who is thinking about setting up for seahorses, we would love to have you come into the video like Vincent has and ask questions live, and we can have a discussion with all of us, about what could you do, what should you do, how should you set up. There are also excellent documents in Seahorse Sources group about setting up, because when you set up properly, you don't run into these problems.
Right.
Unfortunately, Susan was like an expert, so it does happen. And if it ever happens to you, don't beat yourself up. We'll help you figure it out and try to fix it. But it does happen. And
Deborah,
go ahead, Holly.
Deborah Corker mentioned something to her about 10-year tank syndrome. What is that? Is that
You get a huge buildup of crap over time that you can't see, that you don't even know is there. Uh,
That's
and you
usually
have to accept it. It's like, Kelly just posted a reminder that UV doesn't work on most bacteria like Vibrio that affect our adult seahorses because benthic bacteria stay on the surface and don't go through the UV.
That was actually Ray's comment. I copied and pasted it. But before we go to that, back to the original.
the
Sorry.
10-year tank syndrome? So
Yeah,
what
old
is
tank.
that? Can it explain?
I think
I personally, Vincent.
I think
go.
it has to do with the age of it happens with sand beds.
Yes,
And it was real
that's what I was
common
gonna
with the
say.
deep sand beds years ago when we would run in deep sand beds. And,
Yeah.
10 years of accumulating that stuff, we didn't vacuum them.
Yeah.
And it would,
Yeah. Okay. I've read about that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the toxic stuff underneath the
Yeah.
sand.
Now,
and it
don't
gets
disturb
moved.
the sand bed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've read that in some of my
It's
aquarium books.
But I've heard of Holly. You're not making a bad statement because I've heard of so many people saying that there's old tank syndrome, where just when the tank gets so old, the bacteria maybe gets too old. I don't know. I know it multiplies constantly, but many people have trouble after 10 years or however many years where the tank just crashes. That's why I don't want to focus on possibly it being the additives that she was using, because I use them too. I add beneficial bacteria to my tank on occasion just to spruce up the bacteria because it will get old. It will.
I don't believe she had that tank set up for anywhere near that long, although she did.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
was 6. She said it was 6-year.
Yeah, that makes
And-
sense. The
and-
thing is, I know a friend of mine who teaches this and taught classes. One of his big things is he illustrated how you can actually use sand for filtration, and you do not need to add a lot of other stuff. But that's a fairly short duration success. And one of the things that a lot of people do is that, well, the tank starts looking a little cruddy, it's getting older, it's got algae, and yada, yada, yada. Then they go in and start blowing the sand around. Well, if you do that,
Then you're spreading all that bacteria.
Yeah, you're
unless like you vacuum it regularly. Like if you don't have
Right.
as deep a sand bed, like if you have, like 2-inch sand bed, or less, and you're vacuuming it, then you don't get that pile up, I imagine.
I think Heather has a method. Maybe Heather. If I'm thinking of someone else, I apologize. But someone told me they have a method for sand that really works, where you have to clean it regularly so it doesn't get that buildup. But it's still basically vacuuming one section each week so that you keep the bacteria in there, but you're cleaning it. I don't use sand. Vincent, do you use sand?
No, I'm a bare bottom person. I do have
Yeah.
one. I do have one tank that's under gravel filter with crushed coral. I just have that for the heck of it. But if you've ever read anything from Paul B,
Yes,
his tank is 50 years old, and he's still using a reverse flow under gravel filter. Now I don't know what he's done, but it's been set up for 50 years.
It can be done.
It's almost as old as me.
The problem with all this is I'm totally bare bottom. All my tanks are bare bottom. But it's one of those things where ultimately with sand, especially a deep sand bed, ultimately you're creating a serious problem for you because eventually it's going to reach the point where it starts killing everything off. I mean, it becomes totally toxic.
Yep, I agree.
It can only hold so much.
Exactly.
And then it's gonna release it at some point. I mean, how much can it hold?
Okay, now real quick, let me turn my camera back on. Let's talk about wait, hang on. Back to we'll go to big shrimp in. But Ray's point that UV doesn't work on most bacteria like Vibrio.
No.
So, I mean, Ray's made the point before, a UV sterilizer can be effective for algae and some pathogens, but things like Vibrio don't get killed by UV because they stay on the surface and don't go through the UV. Is that right, Ray?
Right.
See,
Any other comments on that, Ray?
Well, basically anything that is benthic is not going to be touched by UV unless it's some one of the things that they may be benthic, but they'll have a pelagic stage, like hydroids.
Yep. And can you tell the audience real quick what benthic means in case anyone's new?
Well, pelagic means that it's waterborne and staying in the water column, and benthic means it's surface-borne.
Or it stays on stuff, right?
Yeah,
like
that's what I mean, surface-borne.
well, surface born. I think of benthic seahorses when they're born, they hitch, and it's not at the surface. I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah.
I get your point. You're using the scientific stuff, and then so just keep that in mind, guys. Don't count on a UV to help you with things like Vibrio.
a UV is just one more piece of the puzzle to help combat problems. It's not going to be a perfect catch-all to take care of everything. It's just one piece. And when my UVs, I run them on low flow because I know the fast little buggers aren't going to get caught up in them.
In a fry,
Actually,
UV can help somewhat. For instance, with a fry tank, it's my belief that it's best if you wipe down that tank every day.
Oh, yeah.
If you wipe that tank down, that's going to wipe the bacteria into the water column.
Exactly.
So there'll be an amount of that bacteria that will go through the UV at that time until it gets suspension or get sucked up by the filtration.
I agree.
So it will help there, but you're not doing that with an adult tank every day.
Right. And Big Shrimpin said, I don't know that I believe in old tank syndrome. If the system is balanced and maintained, it should go forever. It's constantly running. I think it's more I got complacent syndrome personally. Hey, I agree. I agree.
That's the reason I brought up Paul B. I mean, because his tank's been set up for.
The thing is, I typically move everything around a minimum of once every 2 to 3 years. I break tanks. I got enough tanks. I break tanks down that have been up for a while, set them up, start them over again, and use them. My nurseries are cleaned at least 2 to 3 times daily when I have little bitties in there or I have a lot of fry. And it's one of those things where it's a constant, never-ending process if you want to keep horses.
Right. No, but I disagree because, I agree with you. Let me say I agree with you. But if you set up properly and you set up with the right equipment to start off and you set up with the right amount of seahorses in the tank and species only and don't add a bunch of crap and whatever, you can make it last, over 10 years. I kind of agree with Big Shrimpin, and every time I've had a problem, it's because I was slacking, and I admit it. I totally admit it. It's because I like canister filters. Sure, you can use them, but you have to maintain them. If you don't, they're going to cause you problems. Anything in a tank.
Yeah, maintenance is the key, and this is where so many people fail. I've got friends. I've got a friend that's got a over 500-gallon tank that he's had in his living room for at least 8 or 9 years. But he's constantly cleaning, rearranging, moving stuff around, moving the corals around. This is also a true coral reefer tank, and he's got some amazing stuff. But it's one of those things where they also are using Apex controllers, etc., to monitor everything, and those things are expensive.
Vincent, any last comments about old tank syndrome?
No, I had never experienced it, but I remember when that was a debate many years ago.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm still running under gravel filter on one tank, and because I'm nostalgic.
How,
But
how do you maintenance it?
I don't do anything. I stir the sand every once in a while, but you got the or the crushed coral. You got the water's going through it all the time, and
Right.
I mean I've had them set up.
Maybe that's one of the problems. Like in is it a Seahorse tank?
Yeah,
Okay, maybe that's. I just wonder if that's because we advise not to use crushed coral
yeah.
in a Seahorse tank only because Dan found that it can cause injury, right? When they're eating the food.
And
It hasn't
bacterial
posed.
stuff.
Because
It holds on to particles of stuff.
well,
Is
it
what.
does, but what happens is
Right.
it breaks down, and the bacteria is going to consume it, and
Well, and I was going to say with an maybe that's the correct. I mean, I'm not condoning. I'm just saying maybe that's the correct formula if you want to use an under gravel filter or crushed coral is that you use those two together because I would think sand would
well,
compact and I don't know how to say it, like
sand
shut
fell
off
through.
the flow.
Sand,
Yeah.
and I have
Right.
done planums too, where you have a
Yeah.
1 inch void, and then you have a 2 inches of sand, fine sand, or crushed coral, and then on top of that you put another 3 inches, 4 inches of sand, and it's natural, and you use screen to separate them,
Huh.
and you
Yeah,
never
but
go
you
to
can't
the,
ever clean them,
no, but
right?
you never go to the anaerobic area,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the
See, that worries
anaerobic
me.
area is what
Oh, wait. The screen is cutting it off,
yeah, the
so you
screen is
never
cutting off,
touch
you
it.
never touch it,
Okay.
and like any animal, anything can get down into that bottom anaerobic, and a lot of people used them back in the 90s,
Huh.
and
But I could see that working because then you avoid all the problems that we associate with the anaerobic and with the deep sand bed and all that stuff.
but
If you use
see,
screen to cut it off.
but
Ray's raising his finger. Go ahead, Vincent.
you
Real quick.
eliminate the
Hang on, let
problem with
Vincent
a
finish.
bare bottom.
Okay.
The water flows it all to one area. You can siphon it
Yeah.
out, and you're always clean. You get a little bit of algae, and
Newcomers, little bare bottom is
that's
best.
the best
But
way to do it, especially for
I
seahorses.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Ray, what were you gonna say?
Well, from my experience, 30 and 40 years ago, my best success came with reverse flow under gravel filtration. Now, excuse me, I had tanks with plenums, and I had some with the substrate on the bottom, and I had a regular under gravel filter. But for me, the success was to take, as a matter of fact, this particular power head and filter thing we were just talking about today, take that and plumb on the output, PVC go out with an elbow down, and this power head comes with a cone that sits on an under gravel uplift tube. You sit there and you put it so that the power head, when you turn it on, is blowing the water down underneath the plate, not drawing from underneath. It's blowing down under, then the water comes up through the substrate that's on top of the plate.
I have a friend, we used to call him the king of flow because he was the one that I forget what they call them now, where the tanks have multiple returns on them and then they're drilled. But anyway, and he kept some of his seahorse tanks going for years. We used to kid with him because he posted a sideways picture one day by accident, and he goes, "How did that happen?" And I responded, "You mean the king of flow doesn't know the mojo?"
Funny.
But it's one of those where
Funny.
it depends on how the system is set up,
Sure.
how it's maintained. It depends on your stocking distance, see what else you've got in there, temperature. The bottom line is there's so many variables. So there's so many things that can go wrong if you're not knowledgeable and staying on top of it. And that's where
Well,
most people run into the big troubles.
Well, that's why we invite you, anyone who watches this tonight or later that is new and wants to set up a Seahorse tank, we invite you to either come in the chat or come into the video and ask question after question so we can help you set up for success. That's what we want to do. That's what we're here for. And Shyla said she was slacking recently and had the accident where the whole tank was drained. God was telling her to do 100% water change. Absolutely agree. And Kelly, if she's still here, I would like to know what questions you have about macroalgae. And while we're hoping that she types some questions, Vincent, have you kept macro in Seahorse tanks?
Yeah, I was gonna. This is all my tanks years ago used to be macroalgae.
Yeah,
I don't
mine
know if you
too.
can see this.
Yeah,
But
baby.
the whole tank would
Oh,
be just macroalgae. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
you have to do it.
Prolipera maxifolia.
And it had Cheeto in it too.
Yep.
And I've had it go asexual.
Oh yeah.
Didn't hurt anything, but I had bubbles in the tank and a skimmer.
Yep. You had air. Yep.
But the key is to prune it. And when you're pruning it, you're exporting the junk you want that is
Absolutely.
absorbing, you're pulling it out. But I like macro. I just haven't been able to get good macro and be able to
Yeah.
reproduce them kind of setups. And I think it's because of the lights. LEDs just do not give you the kind of growth that even Power Compact T5s and Metal Highlight gave.
While I agree with you, I would say that it does depend on the size of the tank. So my very first tank, I'll try to pull up a picture in a second, but it was actually in Reef Hobbyist magazine because they liked it so much. And I had so many species of macros, but it was a smaller tank, so the light was closer to the macros, right? And I learned how to place the macros. Like I used certain, blue scroll would be medium height, whereas any of the caulerpis or red bubble algae or any of that, I could use the scientific names if you need me to, but they would be lower because they would grow so fast. Anything slower growing, I'd put higher, but I'd make sure I had a whole method to my madness, and that tank was gorgeous and it lasted years and I loved it. But I'm also a macro lover. Even in tanks where I don't have macros in the tank, I typically have them in the sump. Not a fry tank. I did try a fry tank with macros, and it just, well, I only kept one Seahorse alive.
I say that
But
that would not go over.
right, because of hydroids, neptasia, and all that stuff. But in an adult tank, again, even if I don't use macros in my 65 gallon, I used to have macro all over the tank. It got kind of out of control when I lost my mom and I wasn't taking care of the tank, pruning, as Vincent said. But I still kept the algae scrubber in the sump, and that thing is amazing. Again, as Vincent said, the key is it's pulling in the nutrients. Your organic, it's pulling in all the crap. You have to prune it. You have to make sure to take it out. So even if you're using the slower growing pretty algae, as I call it in my video, in the tank, you still have to prune it because it is soaking up all that stuff, but it's still sitting in the tank until you remove it, right?
And
So
it's soaking up all that stuff, and then it's going to go sexual, and then you're going to wake up in the morning and have this big blur of a tank.
no. Caulerpa is the only thing that goes sexual, in my opinion. The only thing I've seen. I've had so many species of macros that don't cause any problems.
Well, yeah, like Cheeto
absolutely.
There definitely is a difference in LED lighting.
Yeah.
And the way I discovered that it was quite different is I also do things like growing tomatoes. And I'm growing tomatoes in the house here now. And I have a moisture meter, so I can check the containers and that for moisture. Well, that moisture meter has a light meter on it also. And it specifically tells you on there that it's only for measuring light outdoors. In other words, the sunlight,
Yeah.
because it measures something to do with the UV rays. And I had tested this before with power compacts and with incandescent, and it does not register. Just for the hell of
Wow.
it, when I was setting up the corncob LED lights for my tomato plants, I checked with this light meter, and it registers, same as it does outdoors.
Dang.
So
Huh.
if
Yeah,
what
that's
they're saying in
interesting.
the instructions that it requires an amount of UV to trigger it, then the LEDs are triggering UV. So what
Well, right.
in my estimation, then I'm going to watch for anything that I have lit up with UVs, especially plastic, because UV degrades plastic.
Mm. Good point. Well, on the macro tank that was so successful for me, I actually was using a freshwater, I think it was Fluval freshwater plant light
Yeah, you
24/7,
don't need.
and I think it had UV.
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
don't need.
Sorry,
I
Vincent.
mean, for the refugiums, I used to just go to Home Depot, buy me a daylight
Yeah,
bulb or a 60 watt,
yeah.
something like that, stick it in their floodlight, and put it above the refugium.
Let me see if I can find it. Um, guys, did you have? I am trying to make these Wine Wednesdays shorter, and I apologize. I saw in the comments that Tyann and Robert King were live, so I apologize if we cut them off at all. But anything else you wanted to discuss, Vincent?
No, but
Because I'm going to try to find this picture.
last
Go ahead.
week I said I would tell you what I enrich my baby brine
Yeah.
shrimp. This is one of them. Can you see it?
Okay, hang on. Let me make you big. Whoops. Here we go.
Okay, that's one.
Spirulina powder. Okay.
The other one is this. Can you,
Puffa. Oh, good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I do use yeast a little bit, and then I use from Alyssa,
Gotcha.
and that's the four things I use to enrich the brine shrimp.
How much yeast do you use and
Very
why?
little bit. I don't know, just something. I put a little bit of yeast.
The yeast doesn't have as much nutrition as the
No,
spirulina.
yeah,
Spirulina is probably the best thing that you can use, but especially if you can put the DHA into it, like using the Algamac 3050 or
Mm-hmm.
proper, what do you call it? It's the 3050 is
Lipids and
basically
stuff.
an algae, and I'm just trying to call up Schizochitrium, I think it's pronounced. So if you can get that and add it to the spirulina, you've got a really good base to enrich things.
I think
I
I start.
found if you have grocery outlet where you live, they sell spirulina powder sometimes.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, because health food stores carry it, but it's super expensive. But I've
Well,
been able to find it in grocery outlets sometimes for a lot
at
cheaper.
Brine Shrimp Direct. I
Yeah.
can't buy it cheaper here in Canada. I still ordered in from Brine Shrimp Direct because nobody sells it as cheap as they do.
Yeah, I might have gotten this from them. The everything
You
but
could,
the
they
Alyssa.
use this Schizochitrium. They use it in making up food formula that they sell. So if you really want to get some, ask them if they'll sell you some, especially
Yeah.
if you're going to buy some spirulina powder from them as well. They may sell you some of the shizzle.
You know what I think the reason I started yeast is when I was running out of enrichment.
What does
And I
the
grabbed
yeast
some
do?
yeast. They just eat it just like they do anything else. And it
Yeah.
Really?
yeah, and I think ever since then I just add a little bit to it. I mix it all together
Huh.
and then put it in the refrigerator and then feed it.
Artemia will eat anything that is appropriately sized. It doesn't matter whether it's food or non-food. If they can capture it properly with their appendages, then they move the food along with the further forward appendages till it gets into the digestive tract, like most, and passing it through them. They don't
Wow.
filter food out of the water like clams do, or some of these worms. They have to put the food, capture the food, and then put it in their mouth. They're not taking the water through and then filtering it out internally.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, Heather
All righty.
on Amazon they have spirulina powder, $6 for a big bag.
I think mine was
Nice.
$10 at Brine Shrimp Direct for a pound.
Yeah, I paid $10 at grocery outlet,
For a
which
pound
is
of it.
actually
Doesn't
a
matter.
food store, but they sell stuff like discounted.
I don't trust some of these places. I mean, I use Brine Shrimp Direct and several others on a regular basis. But buying stuff at some of the fish stores and stuff, you have no way of knowing. Has that been sitting on that shelf for the last 5 years? You have
Well, the
Yeah.
one like I bought, it was for humans. It's from a health food store. So I
Okay.
figure if it's good enough for us, it should be good enough for the brine shrimp.
Right.
But yeah, they sell stuff at that place. It's an outlet, so they sell stuff generally for pretty good prices.
nice.
So just showing you guys, this was my first macro tank. So Kelly, if you watch this later, or if you're still here, I had so many species of macro. I can tell you about all of them.
I remember when
I
you were
learned
putting
about the
that together.
placement, codium. Oh God, I love that tank. Tuft is my favorite. This one right here is my favorite. I love the rose. I can't say it right, but Bodocliandria. Oh man, Faucia. I had blue scroll over here. I'll go to the next picture, but I did have gorgonians too, but codium was another favorite. The hypnea I loved. So if you want to have a episode, there's the scroll. It wasn't blue yet, but as you can see, I had the
Yeah.
Fluval 24/7 on there, and the seahorse. You can't see him very well, but the male, that was his cave, in this cave under rock and macroalgae, and he would go there after he was pregnant and chill, and that was his little haven. And he would come out to have the babies. You can see one seahorse there, and a powerhead. And yeah, it was one of my favorite tanks. I wish it was still here. I do. I had so many
Yeah, that's a
macros.
beautiful
So I'd love to
tank.
talk macros with you for sure.
I would love to get some more interesting macros and work with them and set up an actual macro tank. I got the hiccups now. But I've got so much on my plate already. It's like, don't add anything more.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
problem I
It
had,
depends on what you want.
the problem I had is getting
I'm going to tell
pests.
you all, if you want to raise seahorses, seahorse fry, we all know brine shrimp is a suboptimal nutritional environment. And even enriched, it still is going to be lack the HUFA and EPA necessary lipids for optimal growth. One thing, who is it? Chad Clayton. They sell A. panamensis, Apocyclops panamensis copepods, which
Hmm.
are very, very high quality food source for seahorse fry. They are a good, decent size. They are easy to culture. You can culture them on algae paste, and you can have thousands of them within a matter of days. And
Absolutely.
I used them when I was working with the combs and engines and some of the other species produce very tiny pelagic fry. And I've also started using them now when I'm raising a rectus fry. And I literally can see my rectus fry more than double within 7 days after birth.
See, this is why we need to separate these episodes into talking about breeding fry and keeping seahorses, just keeping them. No, I'm saying because, let me point the right way. She is the queen of fry. Okay. She knows everything about, and Vincent, let me point over there
I
too.
don't know that
He's the king, but I just wanted to point out that if you're just keeping a pair of seahorses and you're not worried about fry, you don't need all this stuff. But we need to have an episode focused on how to enrich Artemia. In fact, that will be part of Seahorse Source Part 4. That is the main focus of it, is showing how he enriches, cleans, and etc. But Vincent, I'm so glad you shared your methods with us tonight, what you feed. And I hope you'll come to that episode,
Oh yeah,
because
did, yeah.
I love when we talk back and forth and, I do this, I do that. It's great.
But
And were you going to say something else, Vincent? I feel like I cut you
earlier
off.
you said about hurting the seahorses on the crushed coral.
Yeah.
The rock is worse than the crushed coral, live rock.
You think?
Oh, yeah. At least the rock I have. It's got some nasty edges on it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, and no, it was, and Holly pointed out, it was also about trapping bacteria and trapping food and turning into bad stuff, because there's such large gaps. But no, I seem to remember it's something. We'll have to get Dan back in here, but I seem to remember it's something about with crushed coral, they have trigger injuries. Am I wrong, you guys? Maybe I am.
I haven't experienced it.
Well, that's for another week
Maybe
then, because I can't remember exactly what
I
you
guess
said.
maybe if they took up something in when they were snicking.
Yeah. Well, and I think Holly's more right. I think it was more about the trapping.
It was, it was about trapping like food particles easier, because there's so much space between the pieces that, it was more about bacterial infection causing.
I will say this though, if you ever get seahorses from a bare bottom tank and you put them in a tank with sand, it might take them a few days to get the hang of getting the food off the bottom, if it makes it to the bottom, if they're used to getting it off a bare bottom.
No, I agree.
I
absolutely agree.
Yeah. We see that question all the time on in the different forums. Why aren't my seahorses doing anything? They're just sitting there. And it's because they've been brought up in a bare bottom tank, and all of a sudden you're trying to put them into something with a sand substrate, and they do not comprehend the difference initially. They're not convinced.
Usually they can't recognize it because it's the same color.
Yeah.
Give them time, guys. Feed them in the water. You can get around it. But Holly, go ahead.
I want to say, because when I raised my seahorses, I used bare bottom. And at the time I moved some of them to the display tank, I had sand at that point. And they didn't take long at all to adjust. Well, they had already learned how to eat out of feeding stations too, though, by that time, because I trained them from the very time they start eating frozen food. So that might have been part of it. Because, I was going to say, I don't remember them having any problem, but they don't eat in the sand. They eat on a feeding station. So that's a little...
Well, but it's an important point. Make sure whomever you buy your seahorses from, that you learn how they're fed. And either duplicate that or understand that it's going to take a minute. Holly, Aphrodite, she didn't know what the hell was going on. Where's the feeding dish? I mean, because she was trained on a feeding dish.
Yeah.
I have a seahorse from Holly that is great now, but in the beginning she was like, wait, what is this? Why can I see through the bottom of my tank? I ended up putting a blue, one of the backings under the tank, just so they couldn't see through, because I think it was freaking them out. And then, feeding, she was like, why is this food everywhere?
But at that stage, though, they eat all the way. Because the way I feed them is I broadcast feed, but I also have feeding stations in the tanks where I broadcast feed. So they're getting it all the ways. They learn they can go to a dish and there's food in there, but they'll eat it like off the bottom of the tank or as it's floating by, or all the different ways. But
no. I think the reason she was freaked out is because
she could
see
through
the bottom.
Didn't have
what is this floor?
That would freak me out too. Where's the ground?
Me too. Me too.
I'm going to tell you guys a funny story.
Okay, quick.
You're going to laugh here, proverbially. You know what's off. I bought several juveniles from Jorge Gomez Jurado, who used to own Draco Marine, and he is
Yep.
actually the one that designed the seahorse habitat for the Baltimore Aquarium. He's a PhD.
Nice.
Okay, and I had several, and there was one little female that he sent me that she would not go down and eat until everybody else was finished eating. She was very shy. So I decided she was going to die if I didn't do something. So I set up a little feeding station for her in the back left corner of the tank. And it didn't take her long to figure out that was a safe place to eat. The day I knew she had me trained was the day she was in the right top corner of the tank. As she saw me starting to walk up, she swam as fast as she could over all the other seahorses
Yeah.
and went back to her feeding station where I had been hand feeding her.
I
Now,
want it in
She
my
knew.
dish, Mom. That's how Dan
Yep.
is, because he has
Yeah.
his own dish, but the other seahorses like it too. They'll come and crowd him and eat out of his dish, and he gets upset.
Who did this female have in the palm of her snout?
You. And I just wanted to real quick, because we're trying to make these Wine Wednesdays shorter and we're hitting on 9:45 already. So I wanted to say, Shyla said she loves macroalgae, but hated that they introduced hydroids to the tank. I know they don't harm regular adult seahorses, but if they can kill fry, I'm pretty sure they can irritate the adults. Agree. And aptasia. If we want to if Kelly wants to come to a future, or Zen Ginger wants to come to a future episode and we can focus on macros, we can have a deep discussion about quarantining, about any dips we do before we add macros to the tank, what macros can be dipped, what macros belong in the tank and which belong in the sump. We can have that episode. We've had it before, but we're here for new people. So we're more than happy to have that again. Just let me know your specific questions so we can cover them. Or hit me up on the side and we'll invite you into the stream and we can back and forth as you see us doing all night. And Zen Ginger said, so does everyone with bare bottom tanks paint the underside of their tanks?
No.
Because of the problem I was just calling? Okay.
No, I put something under the tank. Well, I don't have like an open tank stand. I don't have any open tank stands. Like one tank is actually on a desk, an old metal desk.
Right.
My husband customized for me, and he painted it with black waterproof rubberized paint. So it's black, under that tank. And then when I set up like the fry tanks, I don't do tubs. I use just regular aquariums. I put like a towel or something, under it. Yeah, so it's not see-through. I have noticed though, I put placemats, these plastic placemats from the dollar store underneath one once, and they had designs all over it, like fancy designs. And that was confusing for them. So yeah,
I'm sure
something solid and dark color. But
I was going to say
underneath of them, just I haven't. I guess.
Yep, I agree. You can, and Zen Ginger, I would just say I appreciate the question, because I should have specified that in this particular tank, this 40-gallon all-in-one, the stand I have, as Holly said, is open. So it's one of those that, have the braces around where the tank sits, but it's like straight, there's nothing underneath.
Well, they could see the floor, but it was 3 feet away. They're like
right, dimensions. Right. They're in water, but still it was confusing for them. And so I did end up putting just the plastic backing, like blue colored plastic backing under the tank. But in most cases, in every other tank, even in my bare bottoms, there's a stand that's dark colored, like Holly said. Vincent, did you have any comments?
No, I mean, my 75 that the fryer in right now is clear with an open bottom. I never even thought about it.
Well, maybe when they're young. I mean, I wonder. I mean, maybe I'm crazy too. But I know they didn't like it. But with Fry, you know, they don't even know what to expect of the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my thoughts on that. Ray, any other thoughts before I conclude this tonight?
I can't see that they would be bothered by nothing on the bottom. The way I look at
I'm
it,
telling you.
we don't even know for sure that they can actually see any distance through the glass.
How many?
Well, and that's debatable. Wait, that's debatable because I've taken videos of my seahorse looking into the glass and swimming up and down and showing off and watching its own curves and thinking it's sexy. But then Dan says they don't see their reflection; they see
No.
out. So who
No,
knows?
because when you go up
Who
to
knows?
Stick
when
your head
I
in the
go,
water and you'll see that you can see through it. You're not going to see your head reflected.
It
I still
depends
think
on
they
Well,
the
see
they
tank.
can
reflection.
see out like they can see us in the room. So when you have
Right.
your tank with a bare bottom and there's nothing under it and the floor's 3 or 4 feet away, they're probably thinking they can get there. Why can't I go through this?
Right.
Is
Yeah.
how
Right. Or why has the food stopped at this certain point and just, you know, sitting there not moving?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I
But
know
I
my
swear
seahorses try to get out. I mean, Candy's excited when I come home from work. She sees me in the room. And, you know,
it
she
smacks into the
well, she doesn't smack into the glass, but I mean, she swims right up to it and she's swimming to the top like if only I could get out and go in that
Right.
room, you know.
Yep. Nope. Mine do that too. And I would just say though, if any of you out there are with me, please let me know in the comments. I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe it's like, think about when you're driving. And you're driving, you can see out the windshield, but when the sun reflects a certain way or when the shadows reflect a certain way, you can see your own reflection, right? Because I'm telling you, my seahorse dances and admires itself. I'm telling you. But
what is
Vincent, you were trying to say
it's
something.
trying to go through the glass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No,
trying to get out.
that's what
when
they're
he's
trying. They're
swimming
trying to
up
get
and
out.
down
They're
and
trying to
looking at
move through it
himself.
and don't
Yeah.
know that the glass is stopping them. So they just
Yeah,
keep on trying.
that's what
It's
I
like
think.
I
making
disagree.
Again,
fish in the tank.
I
It
have
depends on what the background
silver
is.
wrap. I have silver wrap around my tanks. It's an insulation, right? So other than the front of my tanks, it's wrapped in a silver wrap,
Silver.
except for the background. And I have seen them, you know, trying to dance with that.
I'm telling you.
Well, you made a mirror.
have
You made
But
a
video.
it
mirror.
is silver, so it is a mirror on that part. But I've seen them do that on the other parts too. And I think it's like Ray says, they're trying to get out.
They're trying to swim.
See,
They're trying to
Time
get
to get out of Holly's
room.
house.
I agree. Wait, guys, I agree. They're trying to get out. I agree. They don't understand why they can't be in the room with us. They want to come hang with us. But Shyla said, I believe they can see reflection from my experience.
I think
My
so.
girl was trying to chase the turkey baster from reflection when the baster was actually behind her.
Yeah.
So I do think it just depends on lighting. You guys
Yeah,
are all right.
depending
But I think there are
on
certain instances.
reflections, like you said, because like you said, when you're in your car sometimes and window to window, you can see yourself in a
Well,
certain
and
lighting. Yeah.
But I took
I
a
had a
video of
young-
this.
I had a
Wait,
young
hang
son-
on. I took a video. Hang on. I took a video of this seahorse dancing and admiring himself.
Mhm.
He was like moving certain ways and looking at himself, and you can see his reflection.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's two of him.
Yeah.
So he can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. All right.
Kelly, I have exactly the same kind of videos. One of my combs, she was about, I don't know, 2.5 inches long or so. And she was playing with her reflection, tapping with her snout, swimming around, doing curves, going back over, tapping with her snout. And it's one of those things where I found it hysterically funny.
And Ray, you said what? I saw your comment.
Doesn't matter what we think. We can all think things different. It's not going to change a thing for the seahorse.
That's right.
I know, but I just want to be right, damn it. Okay? I can't scientifically prove it, but I'm telling you.
You know what?
All
You
right.
know what to do?
Talk, they'd have a
Take
lot
your-
to
Wait,
say.
let Vincent. Go ahead, Vincent.
Take your phone, put it on record, and stick it in the tank, and look
Okay.
and see what happens.
All right. I have a supposed waterproof.
I wouldn't
so
try it.
maybe
I
I'll do
wouldn't
that.
try it.
Yeah, I was just saying, I
No,
wouldn't trust that.
But
and
I
for
don't have
Dan's
a
done
phone.
that.
and
Dan has done that with like a what are they called? I can't even think of the word. I have one too.
Holly,
The
Mhm.
underground cameras. You know what I'm talking about? Or underwater cameras.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead, Vincent.
no,
Sorry.
Holly, I got a new phone, so my pictures are gonna
Oh,
start
nice.
looking good like yours and Heather's.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Woo!
No, those new iPhones, they're
Yeah,
incredible.
I just got
I
it
got mine
today.
fixed today, so I'm exchanging it for a 14. We'll see. I'm sorry, Vincent. Go
No, I
ahead.
just got mine today, the 14 Pro.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah,
it's nice.
Mhm.
GoPro. And Chris, thank you, Chris Carey. GoPro. That's what I was talking about. Yes, Dan used a GoPro,
Yeah.
and Zen Ginger. Everybody's yes, GoPro.
I'm
Anyways,
open
guys,
for
I am gonna have
I'm open for donations if a GoPro from anybody that wants to send me one.
to. There you go.
Oh, Chris
Or
Carey,
Ziploc
Ziploc
bags.
bags.
Yep. Chris, we need to get you back in here one week. Now that Vincent's joining us, we're getting a party going here. Vincent, I hope you come every week. We love
Okay.
having you.
No, I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
And
I told my wife
yeah, and
Wednesday nights are my night.
Nice.
yeah. All right. Well, she can always come
Yeah.
too. Just bring a glass of wine.
Yes.
But anyways, guys, I am gonna have to call it for tonight. But thank you to
I'm
everybody who
sorry,
came.
Kelly.
This is so much fun.
You're going to be up for the next 2 to 3 hours. We're not going to let you go.
Nope, I can't do it. I gotta work tomorrow.
Work.
But I really appreciate everyone that comes. And if there's a topic like macroalgae that you want us to focus on, just hit me up on the side. I would love to focus on it, but I need to know, like, me just talking about macros isn't what you want. I want to answer your questions, and we want to answer your questions. So send me some questions or get them ready and come in the video with us. We'd
Okay.
love to have you.
What's the pretty blue macro that's really hard to keep that I've never tried to raise that I really want to try?
Well, that could be multiple things, Miss Cheryl. Multiple.
I'm sorry, I'm not good at
But
macro.
but in any Seahorse questions, if you are a newcomer and or Kelly or anybody who wants to jump in and ask questions, you've got every aspect of the hobby here. The new, the hobbyist, the commercial, the breeder, the what do we call you, Ray? The genius and the princess maker, Miss Holly. So we'll all answer your questions, and we just love doing this because we love to have the Seahorse community. And thank you to everybody who comes. Thank you to Robert King for making an amazing thing. Tyann for doing an amazing stream too. And I think that's it. My wine's gone, guys. Ugh.
Not
Yeah.
genius. I've just, at my age, I'm hitting the 80 mark in a couple months. So it's just that I've
Ah,
lived longer and I've experienced more things, so I can talk about more things.
you still made more DIY things than I will probably ever make in my life, Ray. So I'm still going to call you a genius. But for tonight, guys, let's say cheers and we'll see you next week. Any topics, message me. We'll get them on there.